Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are not. Well, maybe you are, but chances are you're not. But you are here for the May 2016 Tabs3 Virtual User Group Meeting, where today we are talking about the enhanced reconciliation that's come with version 18 in both Trust and General Ledger. Mary Jo will take that topic. And I am going to talk about the elimination, finally, of period-based reporting and what that means to you. But before we start, I want to remind everybody that might have version 15.3 that it is being sunsetted next month. And what that means is that even though you may still be on maintenance, if you have not upgraded from 15.3, you will not be able to get support anymore. So you want to make sure that if you do have 15.3, and we'll talk at the end about how to tell whether or not you have it, if you do have 15.3, you want to make sure that you get updated before June hits, because you'll want to be able to get your questions answered with software technology, and you may want us to be able to get our questions answered on your behalf with software technology, and we and you will not be able to do that after June or starting in June with 15.3. And I'm going to give control to Mary Jo, but before we do that, I have to load the demo software that we forgot to load just moments before we began. So Mary Jo, I'll do that while you start talking about the enhanced reconciliation. Have fun. Take it away.
All right, so for the last few months we've been going over different features in version 18 that are new with reconciliation. We've talked about importing bank transactions. We've talked about some of the new bank account manager features that we have. And so today we're just really going to dive into an actual reconciliation, and we're just going to look at what's different and how things have changed from version 17 to 18. So I'm just going to go, and I'm going to talk about this in both programs just because there's just a little change in Trust too that is a little different than what I'm going to show you here. But the biggest thing that is huge is if you have Trust and you have General Ledger, the reconciliations are almost identical. Instead of going in and reconciling one way in General Ledger and then going into Trust and reconciling a whole different way, they've brought that together so that they look and act the same, with just one subtle difference in Trust, which we'll talk about, but totally much easier to work with. So we're going to open up a reconciliation in General Ledger. And the very first thing that we notice is this screen here is completely different. We still pick what account we're going to reconcile, and if we do the drop down, it'll always have all of the different bank accounts that you have defined in your system. And I'm just going to work with the operating account for now. We can put in our statement date, same as we could before, and our beginning and ending balance. One thing that happens now is if you put in the wrong beginning balance, it's going to tell you, or the wrong, if it's something that's not calculated properly. You used to have to say okay, and then it would give you this calculated in statement balance is not right. Now, as soon as you put that beginning balance in and you try to go there, you get a box and it tells you, nope, that's not the right balance, you can't use that. You shouldn't be changing your beginning balances anyway, because that should carry over from the month before. The ending balance from that month should automatically be preloaded in there. But for some reason, if you had modified that or something was wrong, it is going to prompt you immediately. Nope, you can't do that. It's not going to take it. So it's still there, and if you still have issues, there's even actually a little button in there that will help you find what that discrepancy is. So if something happens between now and your next month's reconciliation, it will actually show you all the items that have been manually reconciled since the last reconciliation that you did. So it's easier to zero in on discrepancies as well, which is huge. I don't know about you, but if you went through and tried to find some little error that has happened, it can just be like a needle in a haystack, but this now helps you zero in. The next thing that you can do is you can put any adjustments for interest or for service charges right out here on the main screen. So instead of having to go do your journal entry after you've already started your reconciliation, you can come in and just plug in the interest, tell it what account you want to post that to, what the date was that was there, and any journal if it's different than your general journal that you want to post to. Same thing with service charge. You can put in the amount of the service charge, pick the bank service charges account that you have defined or wherever you're posting, service charge date, and the journal. So all right up front, those will be made on the fly. You don't have to go do that after the fact. I'm going to leave that blank for now and say, okay, we're going to pop in here, and of course that I have unconfirmed transactions because we probably were playing with this with having our importing bank transactions on one of our other demos. But I'm just going to go ahead and just tell it that I don't want to review these for now. I just want to go in to my reconciliation, and it'll pop up. So here is the new two-sided view for the reconciliation. Everything is not all mixed together anymore. You can sort by all of the columns now, not just a few. And I have all of my checks and other withdrawals on one side, all of my receipts and other deposits on the other. Much cleaner, much easier to find things. If you want to sort by date, which I think is the default, you can do that. I can sort it by check number. I can sort it by amount. And I can sort it by description. So all of those things, it's so much faster. If you've got a large reconciliation that you're working on, you know this is a pain to try to find a certain thing. And by sorting by amount alone is huge. So I like this view here. Also, same thing on the receipts and other deposits. You can sort by all of the columns as well, and then start checking these things off. Now, one thing that some people don't know when you're reconciling is that you can select multiple items and reconcile them all at once. And this was in prior versions as well, but a lot of people don't know that I can hit Control and I can pick and choose lines to do, or I could hit my Shift key and just do everything in between or a whole group. And if I hit my space bar on my keyboard, that will go ahead and it will check off those items all at once. So if you have a lot of volume and you want to go through instead of double-clicking or clicking on each one to reconcile it or to check it off, you can do multiples all at once. So that's just a little fast tip there that you can do. You can no longer just exit out and have it be lost now. So if I were to postpone or I hit this X over here, I am just getting out and it's saving my work. There's no cancel anymore when I get out of the reconciliation. It's always going to save my work. So if I need to redo it or whatever, I can always clear all my transactions by doing my shift and highlighting and just getting rid of them, or I can change my dates or whatever it is that I need to do. So if you ever just open one without putting amounts in, when you come back in, just put the right amounts on that first screen and you can continue with your reconciliation. I can change my settings. Down here, this is still the same as what it used to be, but it just opens up that window again. So if I needed to change the date or the amounts in here, I could do that and get back in. So if you forget to enter the interest or service charge, you can always go back for that. And then again, postpone, and I'll finalize when I'm completely done. So all of these are still here. Everything down at the bottom, you can still sort by the cleared withdrawals and the cleared deposits, and all of these things down here have not changed, but just the whole overall look and feel of the reconciliation is much cleaner, much easier. Now, I do want to jump over to Trust real quick because I do want to show you there is a different feature over here. The same thing is going to happen with your checks and other withdrawals and all of that, but it's just being slow. There we go. But there is one feature in the Trust reconciliation that I just love, and that is the fact that you can check a box right here to show the trust account information for each trust transaction. Now, if you've reconciled in the old trust system, you know that if you find any amount, there is no relation to any of the trust account numbers or what client those things are for. It was just not there. You would have to try to do a check register or something to find out, well, what is this $100? Because you've got 20 $100 checks that you wrote, and it's hard to figure out what's what. Well, now you can check this box, and it will actually add the trust account ID to the transaction. So huge, huge, huge benefit there. Still have your interest and service charge just like in the other one. Again, identical screens here aside from that box. When I say OK, you'll see that these trust transactions now have that ID in there, so I can easily find, and I'm just going to make this a little bigger here so that we can see it better. And we'll open that up. And inside of there now I have the actual trust ID. And that's optional. You don't have to include it. But again, to me, that is a huge, huge thing there that I want to be able to get in and find out what transaction actually is this. I want to reconcile the right one. Everything else is the same. I can sort by all my columns. I can do everything else reconciling as I would in General Ledger. You can see they look the same. We're not going into some totally different window that I couldn't get into before. So that's it. You postpone, do everything like you would with GL. I just actually double-clicked. I did want to tell you about that too. I double-clicked on an entry, which then takes me right to the trust transaction now. Never could do that before in trust. So now that's another feature that is very helpful when you're reconciling, trying to find out, is this exactly the one that I want for that client? So, yep, just double-clicking takes me in. Other than that, everything else is the same. Once you're in balance, you can go ahead and finalize. All reports are now saved for both GL and trust, which they were in 17 as well. So once you finalize, there will be a copy that you can print in PDF later that is stored. And then the last thing for both programs that you can now do is you can undo reconciliations. So if for some reason you accidentally finalized, you weren't in balance yet, something was weird that you have to go back and undo that reconciliation, you now can do that. So when you come in here, you can go underneath, I'm sorry, I'm being very slow here on my clicking here, but there is an undo bank reconciliation now. So you can get in here and you can do that. I believe it's under maintenance. I can get my buttons here to click. But there is a bank account undo. You can undo that reconciliation. And that is in general ledger as well. So
awesome.
Paul?
A lot of new functionality, but I think the most important thing, or the most helpful thing for a lot of people, is the fact that it's the same now. I can't tell you how frustrating it was for some people to have trust be one way of reconciling and general ledger be another way of reconciling. It just was a problem all throughout the system.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to talk about period-based reports. And I've talked about them before because in the past, we've always felt it was very important that you understood what reports were period-based because they're different. Now, the period-based reports in tabs are the ones that caused you to have to advance the month into the next month. And that alone created a lot of problems for people. When do we advance the month? At what point? Have we entered all the time for the previous month? Have we done the final bills? It was a kind of a balancing act for many people as to when to advance the month. Now, you don't have to do that. Well, you'll see that there's still a change current reporting month option within the month-end tab, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about what reports were period-based that aren't anymore. And the best way to tell is to go into Help and click on What's New and click on Introduction to New Features. And what that'll do is take you to a KB article that includes the changes to Tabs 3 billing, and among them, the period-based reports are now date-based reports. And if you go to that section, you will find the 5 reports that used to be period-based that are now date-based. So what does period-based mean? Imagine, if you will, that you have 12 buckets lined up against the wall in your office. And at any given point, you've taken one of those buckets and put it on your desktop, and all the time that gets entered into the system gets put into that bucket, productivity-wise. That's what period-based means. When you advance the reporting month, when you advance the current month, you are taking that February bucket and putting it back where it belongs, and taking the March bucket and putting it on your desk. And from that point forward, any time that gets entered is put in the March bucket, even if it was February time. And that's the problem. You needed, in the old system with the period-based reports, to know that everybody was done with their February time before you advanced to March, and you wouldn't want people entering their March time until you advanced to March. No more. Everything's date-based. So what does date-based mean? Date-based means that the reports that are generated now simply go on the date of the transaction. So it doesn't matter whether some people are still not done entering their February time and other people are already into entering their March time. It does not matter at all. All that matters is that the system can distinguish between the two, and that's what the date-based system means. Now, there is still an advance month function within month end. The main reason for having this is so that if you happen to be, and it's really not called advance, it's called set current reporting month. So let's say you're into February of 2016 and you're still occasionally going back to December and working on certain reports. Well, if you change you're going to spend the next 2 hours working on reports from December of 2015. So if you change this to December of 2015, that just means that I want all my reports for current month to default to December of 2015. Doesn't have anything to do with the time that's being entered right now. It doesn't have anything to do with what's being done within the system. All it has to do is with when you go to print a report and you say print the current month, even though you're in February of 2016, it's going to default the current month to being December of 2015. So it's more of a convenience thing for the person that's doing the accounting, doing the reporting, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go back and do some more reports from December, and I just want everything to default to December, and I don't want to have to keep changing it back to December, even though I'm already in February. That's all that is. So this is huge, and this sort of goes all the way back. In other words, these date-based reports that you can now get in a date-based method go all the way back to when you were started entering data. So it doesn't matter that you were in a period-based system all the way up until when you updated to version 18. You can now go back to July of 2013 and print a productivity report that used to be a date-based report that would have disappeared. Now, the system as it was when it was keeping date-based, period-based figures would hold those figures for a whole year, whatever your reporting year or your fiscal year was, but then it would flush them out at the end of that period. So now you can go back farther than a year and get those reports out of the system. Leanne, do you have a question?
Yes. If you set the current reporting month, does that change for everyone who's using Tabs at that moment or just the current user?
It changes for everyone. Now again, it doesn't have anything to do with that entering of time.
It doesn't have anything to do with entering of time, but if somebody is updating statements or doing something like that, that will use that current reporting month then. So you have to be careful with that if somebody else is using the system there. But that is saying that's huge, because how many times have you had to go undo a statement last month and then you have to rebuild it, but then when you update it, it updates it this month and it throws off those totals. So that's now an option that you can go back and update statements if you change this to whatever month that you want to and dump those figures back in there. But it is a flip side caution, because you want to be careful you don't have somebody else in there doing something you don't want.
Right. So at some of our larger clients where they have 3 and 4 people in the accounting department, it has to be a kind of a controlled thing. Very good point.
And one other point to make on that, sorry, Paul, but one other thing to make, a lot of people think that if I go back and I change my reporting month here, I'm going to be able to go back and get my AR figures and my WIP figures and my unallocated figures as of whatever I change this to, and that is not the case. Those 3 reports are still in flux. You still cannot get, you have to print those at that time or you lose those figures. They will change. This does not change that part.
Those are kind of what I would call a current reality report. In other words, you can't change current reality back to December.
Did you coin that phrase?
I made that up.
I'm liking that. Current reality.
They're current reality
Wow.
report.
Okay, I'm going to use that.
Okay, so that's that. Did that answer the question, or did we get any more?
The question is answered.
The question is answered. Awesome. Okay, so that's that. Now, I promised you that if you were wondering how do I tell if I've got version 15.3, that I would show you that. It's very simple. If you go to Help in any program and click About, we're in Tabs, so ours says About Tabs. The very top thing tells you what version of the software you have and whether it's Platinum or not. So this is version 18.1. If you have version 15.3 or earlier, you really should get updated. We recommend 18.1, but at the very least to 16 if you've still got those CDs around or you still have access to that. Now, if you are earlier than 15.3, then you've already experienced a period of time where you were without support, so be aware of that. But if you're on version 15.3, you can check that here. If you're on version 15.3, you really seriously need to consider getting updated. Now, next month, we're going to talk about electronic billing, and through that, also task-based billing, which is the module that you use to do that. And Mary Jo's going to talk all about that. If you have questions about electronic billing, what it is, how it's done, what the procedures are, this would be the virtual user group meeting to attend. And I am going to talk about statement comments, which are a way to have notes to yourself or to your timekeepers that appear on the pre-bills and on the WIP reports, but don't show up on final bills. So you can kind of talk about your clients while you're going through the billing process. And it warrants mentioning that if you go to attorneycomputersystems.com, you can see all of the video titles that we have, and we have these 4 live events, the Tabs, Practice Master, and WorldDocs virtual user group meetings, along with my regular monthly Coffee Pot webinar series that we have on ancillary products. These are all live events, and so if you click, for instance, on today's Tabs3 virtual user group meeting, you will get information about the next meeting, a link, either this one or this one, that you can click to register. As you scroll down, you'll see recorded versions. This one is the one we're attending, so it's currently in what we call the post-production mode. But as we scroll down a little further, we get recorded versions of every virtual user group meeting that we've ever done since we started recording them years and years and years ago. You can go down to the bottom and pretty much just scroll through all the different pages. At the bottom, we've got navigation to get from page 1 to page 2 to page 3. And onward, we have 18 pages of these, so as you can see, we have quite a few of these. Or at the top, if you simply want to search for something, you can type a word in here and either wait for this box to pop up or click on the little search icon and get the more detailed list and go straight to something, in this instance, about emailing, either emailing statements or emailing from Practice Master, whatever the case may be. So please take advantage of this video content. We also have the pre-recorded titles. Mary Jo has her monthly eBites video series where she takes a simple, concise topic, subject in tabs, one in Practice Master, one in WorldDocs each month, and records a little 3 or 4 minute video with a very, very neat little tip, a very short and quick but helpful tip. And then we have our longer format show, the Paul and Mary Jo show, where either I or Mary Jo will take a broader topic and spend 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes breaking it into all the different details and all the bits of information that you'd want to know about that particular topic. So please take advantage of these. They're there every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready for you. So everybody have a good rest of the day, good rest of the month, and we will see you in June. Thanks much. Bye-bye.